US dollar / the Norwegian Krone. First off, read this disclaimer carefully and do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So go here to Forex, American. So here is the pair. We have a 6-ish% move from the low, but we have been through a minus 10-ish% pullback, which is pretty significant in the Forex market, that is. So these are weekly data points, and we can go pretty far back. We do see that there are these small time cycles. You could also argue that there is potentially these major super cycles as well. Now the small time cycles, if you look back here, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and down. So the current rise is part of this this time cycle that peaks around late 2022 and reaches a bottom around mid 2024. So these are really like big picture time cycles. If you look here a bit at the history of this pair, if you look here, we do form this head and shoulder-ish pattern and have a major sell-off. This could be a left shoulder, could very well be a head, and maybe we are now in the process through this current time cycle of forming that right shoulder. That is a potentiality. If we zoom in a bit here, we don't have anything in particular, so let's just jump to the daily data points. Because when we do that, we do get something a bit more interesting. We have something that looks like an inverse head and shoulder pattern, and that is a bullish technical pattern. Beyond that pattern, we have something that looks very much like support here at the red 200-day moving average. It has been support in the past, but it can become pretty serious resistance as well. But yeah, it's one of those super important moving averages. So we do have an interesting setup here for the bulls. If we look at the other indicators, MACD on the weekly data points, it did actually send a bit of a sell signal here. So that is just something to be aware of. When we look here at the RSI, the other indicators, we are basically in like the neutral zone. When we go here to the daily data points, we do have a bit of a bullish change here for the MACD. But the sell-off we did have on Friday was it was a bit aggressive. So there are certainly still some bears out there. So that's something we just have to be aware of. When we look here at statistical correlations long term between this pair, and the key thing here is that when this is rising, it means that the US dollar is strengthening vis-a-vis the Norwegian Krone, and of course the inverse as well. Okay, so the correlation here with the S&P 500 is minus 34%. Only 18% positive correlation with gold, with Bitcoin minus 36-ish%. And the dollar index, it only has, a 59% positive correlation. So yeah, that's a key thing, because some people, they have this tendency to only look at, the dollar index and think that that gives you a picture of everything about the dollar. But these statistical correlations show you quite clearly that, there's a whopping 40% here that is like, that you can't explain. If we go here to the daily data points, 52% positive with the S&P 500, minus 29% here with gold, almost the same with Bitcoin, and 81% positive with the dollar index. So looking longer term, the relationship with the dollar index can certainly fluctuate over time, and it is currently at the high part of that long-term range. When we do look at the seasonality, so here's the kicker. I did not find the seasonality for the US dollar / Norwegian Kroner, but I did find it for the Norwegian Kroner / the US dollar. It basically means that we need to kind of flip it. So let's just look at a big picture immediately. So this is the last 20 years. So from October into November, you tend to see a weakening of the Norwegian kroner versus the US dollar. November is one of the weakest months for the Norwegian kroner, and even October, as you see here, it tends to, on average, produce a loss, though December has a tendency to be a bit strong. But not wildly strong, only closes higher 58% of the time. So, the current month and the coming month tend to be weak for the Norwegian kroner, which means that in this pair, it increases the probability that for October and November we will see a strengthening of the US dollar versus the Norwegian kroner, and that would be a bit beneficial to this inverse head and shoulders pattern further developing. So yeah. So my primary thesis here would certainly be that we will see that inverse head and shoulders pattern be further developed through the stronger seasonality for the coming month and November. The Forex market is extremely important to be aware of because all the investments you do are denominated in a currency. And one of the ways you can diversify your currency exposure is to really take that into account, and as an example, buy ETFs that are denominated in a different currency or even currency hedged ETFs. Also further, you can invest in stocks in different locations, the same stock, because at least many of the well-known stocks are listed in different stock markets. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there when it comes to currencies, and some of the biggest and most successful investors throughout history, they did make their huge money in the Forex market. So yeah, very interesting things here, and whatever you do, of course, you do want to be as market neutral as possible in your overall portfolio, because we have a lot of strange signals across asset classes. So, and when we have this very unprecedented time, then there's a risk for unprecedented moves, and that is especially a time where you do want to be market neutral.